we have many different metrics that came almost monthly. It's very quantitative, it's meta. I look at what the investors are doing, not what the markets are doing. The network of SegWit adoption. And here's that chart here. And you can see as we went from 53% and that wallet provider suddenly adopted SegWit, and we rocketed to now 77%. The efficiency of the network went through the roof, and suddenly you can see the blue line is the fees that are being paid to transact. That starts to drop off because the mempool is essentially emptying in spite of an uptick here. This is an uptick of transactions going up through the network. So that's another thing we can do, and answer questions like, why is the mempool empty? Why is the fee so low? So there's all manner of analysis we can look at, and this is the most debated right now over the last few weeks. So there you go. Yeah, exactly. It is. It's really heartening for me because, we were working on this stuff in 2016, and most of the really interesting, there was a miniature, Cambrian explosion of on-chain indicators in 2017. Once NVT was put out there, we had many different metrics that came almost monthly, and we had our first generation on-chain analysts, and now, I was just saying to friends in 2020, and as we saw institutions start to come in and hedge funds start to come in, and we're actually using these metrics in live trading and investment decisions, and we're seeing, institutions using the metrics that we developed back when it was like kind of a hobby, it was like fun curiosity. But now it's some of these metrics are foundational to how we look at how to deploy capital at the institutional level. It's been very heartening, and that kind of hit me in 2020. It was like, wow, Renato did SOPR, and look, we're using it daily now, and it's all over, at least crypto Twitter are sharing the analysis, and a lot of those guys are running hedge funds as well. And so it's being used day to day now. And I think any fund that's entering the space without these kind of metrics are really flying half blind. It's not like the news cycle, The news cycle is, we used to call that fundamentals, like the fundamentals of the regulatory environment, or the fundamentals of BlackRock saying, yes, this is a valid investment. This is a different kind of fundamental. This is like, well, that sounded bullish, but are investors really buying? That's a different fundamental, and it's interesting to a point where people often ask me, what do I think of the macroeconomic environment? Is it risk on, risk off? Is it, what is equities doing? There's correlations to this and that. And the thing is, I don't need to look at other markets because, I'm not looking at markets. I'm looking at investors reacting to the fundamental news. So if the news says one thing, I don't really care what happens. I care if the investors that hold this react in one way or the other. And so it's kind of a meta analysis, but it's direct quantitative analysis, like, oh, they're selling. Okay, it's bearish, right? Bearish news comes out and they're buying. Well, it's bullish, it's not bearish. So we can't always tell. There's often, that famous saying, you buy the rumor, sell the news. And sometimes it flips the other way. The news comes out and people continue to buy, and you can't tell. But with this stuff, it's very quantitative, it's meta. I look at what the investors are doing, not what the markets are doing. I think the bigger picture to think about is Like, I want to see if I can pull it up. Let's see if we can pull it up. So, like, as much as it's very useful if you're a speculator or even an investor over the next year or so, on-chain is, critical to understanding if you're going to have make an investment with your eyes wide open. One of the things that we can also see with very high resolution is the very big picture. And what I've got in front of you here is the growth rate of this network in terms of users. And see this green line here, it shows you how accurate we can get. This is the growth of Bitcoin in terms of users. Today, there is 27.7 million active participants seen on the blockchain. And this is what's seen as unique KYC, identity verified accounts on exchanges. So we're up in this, it was 114 million in September. We're probably in the 150 million there. So, maybe 150 to 200 million people that have adopted Bitcoin. And this data, this is the on-chain clustering, forensic clustering getting account. Look how accurate this is. This goes right down to, there was one person on the network in January 2009, Satoshi. So it's very high resolution. You would never get these mobile accounts going right down to that level of accuracy back then. But like the other thing I want to point out is what this research shows is the growth of the network. We're due to cross over more than the PayPal accounts and, looks like tail end of next year, by the looks of it, maybe. But like, if you project that out, by the end of this decade, we're now in the multiple billions of people, really approaching the number of users on the internet. World population, I'll turn that on. That's world population right now, and it is converging at a frightening rate. Let's just turn the mobile accounts off, and that green line is coming up, and we're ready to look at really getting close to the world population's there. End of the decade, and that has huge ramifications. So that's the passing thought I would leave is think about what that means, both geopolitically, what it means economically when like a new kind of monetary standard. If this continues, if this 12-year track continues, and it doesn't have any kind of hiccup, we continue this track. We're in the last 10 years of this reaching saturation, and that is, often, money is very, very much tied up to geopolitics, nation states, the way in which the world works. So I'm looking at this, and it's like a big zoomed out picture, and it's like everything's about to change. I don't know what that means, but I'm showing you the data that this thing is, look out, we're 150 million people, multiple billions, possibly half the world by the end of this decade, possibly the majority of the world by the end of this decade. And that has huge ramifications. We're at about 2%. It's going to be much higher. And that's the lingering message and thought I'd like people to think about right now.